do I really need to ask them about their great-grandfather's history or what they do for a living, or nowadays, does anybody have a gun at home? All of these questions, medical history, social history, it just goes on and on. And I used to say, why are we doing all of this? We can look this up later if we need it. We can ask the right question if we need it. But what I came to realize is that by doing that over and over and over, it became so natural that I was freed to be much more intuitive, much more with the person, much more available to subtle nuances than if I had never spent time collecting all of that data. Because I got to the point where I could look at people and know a lot and not have to ask all those questions, but still the answers that were perceived later in training needed that foundation. It was essential. It would be like trying to build a beautiful building, a high-rise, without the appropriate foundation. Most of us never see the foundations to buildings. We don't think of it when we walk into buildings. But if it wasn't there, nothing could be built on top of it. And what I realized just now as I was listening is that it was so important to the people of those times to adhere to all of those laws. It was literally on the way to freedom. And then, of course, Jesus came, and we're reading this reading that says Moses came with Elijah. Jesus came with truth and grace, and then Swamiji explains what truth and grace are. But Jesus came when there were more people, not just the Jewish people, who really wanted to know God, or Moses could have never come, but they feared God. And Jesus is saying, let me show you how to love God. It's very different because it's in the love of the heart. It's not just that God resides there. That's what God is. He's all this love. I was thinking, boy, what a Hallmark holiday Valentine's Day is. And then I thought, is that any different than Maya? You know, we live in a world of a lot of false understandings and things that aren't really what they seem to be. But we have to be able to get ourselves to the place where our hearts begin to know how to open. Because it's not in the words, it's not a command, it's not the law, open your heart. We can't just say that until we begin to know what that feels like. Why are we doing that? What does it mean that God is love and in the heart? I wanted to reread this Gita reading today because, you know, the Bhagavad Gita is so filled, I've said this many, many times, with loving reassurances on the part of Krishna. He's always telling us, just bring me a leaf. Just give me everything you have, and no matter how much you fail, bring me your failures. We read these readings every year. This is a beautiful one, though. Not today's. This is a different one that I wanted to read to you, where Krishna says to Arjuna, I am impartial to all. No one especially hateful or dear to me. That's so powerful. God loves every one of us equally. This is what we can know now. This is why Swamiji put this Gita reading in here. He defines, what does truth mean? Truth means the experience of the divine. What does grace mean? Grace means being able to open to God's love. This is why he wants us to be talking about this today, because these are the highest teachings. And this is what Swami Kriyananda brought. But Krishna says, I am impartial to all. No one is specially hateful or dear to me. Those, however, who give me their heart's love are in mine as I am in them. Those who give me their heart's love are in mine as I am in them. What is Krishna saying? He's saying exactly what he said in this reading today, which I want to reread. It is so beautiful. He goes through the whole Gita. He talks about every conceivable teaching on the spiritual path. Everything. He talks about karma. He talks about reincarnation. He just goes through everything a soul would need to know on their way to God. Then he gets to the end of the 18th chapter. That's the last chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. And he puts this reading in here. And he says, take my last word, my utmost meaning have. He's talking to Arjuna. That's us. After all of the teaching, precious thou art to me, right well beloved. This is God. Listen, I tell thee for thy comfort this. Give me thy heart, adore me, cling to me. In faith and love and reverence, he says, cling to me. So shalt thou come to me, I promise, true, for thou art sweet to me. And let go those rights and writ duties. That means rules and regulations, even as they're written in law. That's what writ means. Let go, Krishna says. Fly to me alone. Make me thy single refuge. I will free thy soul from all its sins. Then he says, so sweetly, be of good cheer. It's so dear. And so he's taught Arjuna everything. And then he says, let it all go. Love me. Just come to me with love. And love is so simple. It's something everyone can do. Krishna says, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to understand the law. Now, Krishna, of course, is speaking to Arjuna. But here we are. We can absorb that beautiful teaching. I wanted to share a few stories with you that speak so beautifully to this reading, to this underlying truth. And that is, we're all going to practice, we're all going to meditate, we're all going to study. We invite you to take Raja Yoga 3, 4, 5 times. What do we say? You'll learn more. We know we're not discounting that. But in the end, love God. There's a story that I read recently, again, in Asha's book called Loved and Protected. These are stories of miracles. In there's a story, it feels to me like it's by a woman, but who knows, it's anonymous, who lives in another country that was unnamed and who read about the yoga teacher training up at the village and felt instantly that she had to come and take that training. She just had to. It was you could feel in Asha's telling of it, it was powerful. But very hard to get visas from her country to the US because her country knows it was a little more appealing here. One could live better. They didn't want to lose their population. She said many people, even in her own family, had tried to get a visa and they could not. So here she was trained as a lawyer and wrote up everything perfectly in legal terms. First got a letter from the village talking about the program, assuring the council in her country that she'd be back after the training. She wrote up all of her papers. Her desire to come was so strong. She said when she walked into the building, she forgot everything. Everything. She forgot to even hand them the papers that she had written. All that was happening in her mind was repeatedly, it just came to her. She said, I didn't try to do it. I love you, God. No, God, I love you. God, I love you. God, I love you. Over and over. Literally, she didn't give the papers that she had drawn up. But the council looks at the only paper she had handed him was this letter of invitation. He looks at it. He says, oh, you want to go and study yoga? That's a wonderful thing. And without another word, he just approves her visa. And she leaves there unable to explain anything to her family, except the one thing that came to her was, God, I love you. God, I love you. Everything else, all of the law of it, all of the writs of it, W-R-I-T, legal, writing, all of that, it didn't matter. It was in this beautiful love, in the moment we open in any way. What a simple thing. There are countless stories, but I'm going to share two more with you. Peggy Dietz, who many of you know was a direct disciple of Yogananda, she lived with him. She was telling this story at Ananda Village in 1993. She came for the 100th anniversary of Yogananda's birth. And she said, I always told God every day of my life, I only want you to come to me. Don't send me any intermediaries. I just want you. And she said, one day it dawned on her, dear Lord, I have been dictating to God how to do his work. She's telling this story at the village. So she quickly just, sort of in prayer, says to God, with a lot of humility, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I was doing that. Do whatever you need to do. I want you. She said that very day, as she walked into her bedroom, she sees a piece of paper on the ground. And she just, without thought, picks it up, crumples it, throws it in the trash. Something in her says immediately, get that paper. She opens it up, same day that she freed God to come to her as he saw fit, not how she saw fit. And it says, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. She gets the book, she's reading it, and a friend calls her. Says, there's this guy that's come to town. Excuse me. I think you'll want to meet him. She said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm totally engrossed with this book. The woman says, okay, but I really feel that you'd want to meet him. He's got an unusual name, like Paramahansa Yogananda. So Peggy says, I'll be there. She goes, she meets Master, who's speaking to her. And that night, he says to her, there's a job available at Mount Washington. Would you like it? And she says to him, can I think about that? And he says, well, you can think about it, but I don't know how long the job is going to be there. She said, oh, it's not a problem. If God wants me to have the job, he'll save it. Just very funny. I mean, she was young, but you can see the instant the door opened, God walks in. And again, as I said before, there's not a question about have you been playing by all the rules. Just love me. Just open your heart to me. Just let me enter, and I will. Just like Krishna said. I'll finish by sharing a story with you, a very personal story. Obviously personal about me. Many of you know it has been a really very challenging couple of years for me. We all know this because I've written it in Google Group Notes, and it started day one of the pandemic with my son-in-law being ill and driving up and down the freeway on Route 5, not being able to go in or out of any place for months. Anyway, there was a whole series of events, even in those 4 months. And it's just continued. And Barry, my partner of 36 years, has been ill for 3 years. It started before the pandemic. And again, this, much to his embarrassment and chagrin, and I bet he's watching right now, I have put that out for the whole world to hear. But it's been really difficult. It's never like I've questioned God's presence or questioned the meaning of what's happening or questioned that God is bringing me exactly what I need, but it also doesn't mean I haven't had some serious arguments with him. It's been really hard, and then you all know what is now at least a month ago, Barry had this compression fracture, extremely painful condition when the vertebrae collapsed, led to enormous pain, led to a lot of pain medicines, led to many complications from the pain medicines. It just goes on and on. And our house is, and you all also know, 3 months ago, Max entered our life, this little adorable puppy who thinks he's all that exists in our world. I'll just put it that way. You hear me? It's been a lot. And the whole time, I've been constantly working at staying centered, trusting, saying, okay, all right, whatever, but listen, could you? I need this. Open this door. Do that. Very much like Peggy Dietz. Exactly like Peggy Dietz. There I was, being the perfect devotee in my mind, but not really. Not really. Never once doing what this person who got the visa to come really did. Just, I've been coming here 4 in the morning, many mornings, because I can't meditate there. Sitting here for an hour, not really meditating, but talking to these guys. But when I read that story last night of that person in that country who just did nothing but say, I love you, God. I love you. God, I love you. Not do this for me, do that for me, get Barry better, change his mind, get this doctor, get this procedure, take away the pain, take away me. I mean, of all of the things that I've prayed for, they were always what I wanted. They were always what I thought was right. They were always me being smart. They were not me coming in front of this altar, heart wide open, pure trust, faith, pure love in the heart, like what the scripture said before. Those who come to me with their heart's love live in mine as I do in theirs. I missed the boat all this time. I haven't been bad, that's for sure. But that level of devotion and forgetting the details, really knowing that God would take care of the details, no, I didn't do that. And I'm not saying it's suddenly going to get easy. Who knows? Karma's karma. And we're not free until we're free. And I know all of that too. But it absolutely changed me in a moment to read that story. It said to me, when Krishna says, cling in faith and love and reverence to me, when he said those words, he meant them. He's saying, make me thy single refuge, and I will free you. What a promise. It's like, how did I miss this? You know, and just right after this, in the 18th chapter of the Gita, Krishna goes on. It's like he saved this Not like he did, that's ridiculous. He saved it. As I said, he guided Arjuna through everything. And then he said, Arjuna, if you can just rise to that experience of loving me, you will find that I am already there, that you are already one with me, that you are already living in divine bliss. It's such an exquisite promise that is so darn easy to forget. It's so easy to want to take control. I told you about Peggy Dietz because she was a direct disciple of Yogananda, a very highly evolved, beautiful soul. And there she was for so much of her life trying to direct the show. We have to get out of the way and trust God and love God and find him already deep within and know for sure that he will solve all of life's experiences in the exact perfect way. And let me just say one more thing. Mostly it's easy. Mostly even the hard things are easy. I didn't struggle 13 times up and down Route 5 in the pandemic. I had God's grace. I went through so much. Honestly, it wasn't hard. But as we're clearing our karma and we get to those places that are hard, because, yesterday Jyotish said in a meeting with some of us, he said, you think that you're just going to decide, okay, I'm done. I'm over with this Maya thing, this delusion thing. That Maya's just going to say, hey, sure, let me help you, go on your way. No, that's what he said to us. It's not like that. It has such a hold on us. So what I go through that is making me crazy might not be hard for any of you, but boy, it's hard for me. And it comes and it comes and it comes until it's hard, because we're not free until we're free. So there's a lot left until we can let this magnetism just go. God is waiting right here and here. That's the magnetism, the divine magnet of love. As soon as we can let go, let God move into our hearts, raise our energy in a moment, just like with Peggy Dietz. Oh, that crumpled piece of paper on the floor. Just like with that person in another country. Oh, I love that you're going to study yoga. Go. Because they did the right thing. They opened in that moment, and God could come in. So let's hold these stories dear to our heart, because they're our stories. Every one of us, when the time comes, when it's really challenging, whatever your challenge is, you pick up this, you read the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, certain stanzas of it, and you remember this story. God, I love you. God, I love you. That's all. Doors open, energy rises, miracles.
Though green summer fade and winter draw near, my Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempest, through snows, through turbulent tide, the touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only Thee, your love and your joy. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only Thee, your love and your joy. The dancers will pass, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend.
There lived a tender maid in a far-off country. The strangeness of this world made her sigh. Her friends asked their fathers for money and clothes, but all she could ask was, why? She saw the solemn clouds gathered watching a rainbow. The bright rays of their joys filled the sky. Her teachers explained it all wisely away, but still her heart wondered, why? She saw the silent stars thrill the night with their gladness. They seemed some wondrous truth to imply. Her elders all slept, but the magic of light awoke her to ponder, why? She saw a mother smile as she tended her baby, a widow weep that love had to die. The joy of new friends and the sadness of parting, all these made her ask God, why? One night into her heart stole the secret of oneness, the bond not even time can untie. For love then possessed her and made her his own, In love she at last learned why